Welcome to the Insights Innovation Series with Stephen Wright, a bit of an insight into new business and thought starters about what actually CMOs really want. Stephen Wright, over to you, sir. Are you on mute? Stephen, we can't hear you. Well, this is going swimmingly. Just bear with us, guys.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We've got you now. Okay, over to you, sir.
Sorry, the technology people put me on mute. Okay, so can you see the presentation now?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay, fantastic. Now, Sam called this a masterclass. I thought that was a wonderful thing, but I thought it might be oversell. I've called it a business session and a thought starter. Look, TrinityP3, we do pitches for clients of all sizes, some of the biggest, but increasingly we're doing pitches for clients of a size that are very relevant to IMAA members. The clients now we deal with are between, a lot of them are between 3 and 8 or 10 mil, which are very much in the sights of most of the independents. Now, the reason I read an article recently in BNT, and that came out of the Cannes in Cannes session, where you guys, or some of you guys, Sam, I know you're up there, and there was a session up there on why indies are doing so well, but didn't really sell properly to the broader marketplace why that was. So I put together this article in BNT, which are why indies are so hot, because I think it's a fantastic opportunity. TrinityP3, as a pitch consultant, fully embraces a strong independent agency. It provides our clients with more choice. And I thought it was, I thought I'd put in writing how I saw the opportunity for indies. And there were 5 reasons that are coming together in a perfect storm. And that's the reason I think the opportunity is so right for indies now. Staffing and servicing, the multinationals have always underserved the clients of between 3 and 8 million. And I think it's never been more prevalent or pronounced than now. As a function of COVID, their staffing numbers suffered badly, and they've probably never serviced that range of client more poorly. I did the rounds early this year of seeing all the multinationals and their credentials and their positionings and talking to them about how they go to market. And I was enormously unimpressed with how they're all presenting themselves now. They've all lost the excitement in their credentials. They seem to be obsessed with structure and processes, because that's what a lot of them are spending their time redoing. And in total, across all those multinational agencies, there was very little to get excited about. And when clients come to credentials, they're there to be excited and entertained and dazzled. And the multinationals en masse are doing a fairly poor job of that at the moment. Obviously, that opens up the opportunity for indies, because you guys are great at talking about yourselves. You're talking to the owners of the business often, and there's so much more natural excitement in the room with an indie agency. So that's another reason why there's this fantastic opportunity now. Overall in the industry, what I'm seeing as well is an increased focus on strategy rather than trading. Trading is an area where indies traditionally found it more difficult to compete with the multinationals. There were all these deals that the multinationals promise. Now, as strategy becomes more and more important in the way in which to reach target audiences, that whole trading story has been diminished enormously, and the greater emphasis on strategy plays to the indie market and what you guys can deliver. Management of procurement. Procurement departments traditionally have been nervous of indies. All these financial security and hurdle questions have always been a part of the RFI and things that procurement need answering. But what we've found is that we've been able to better educate procurement on the fact that indies actually don't present anywhere near the risk that some of them perceive. What they seem to forget is that everything is placed in the agency's name, and that before the client has to pay, the activity has taken place. So the risk with regard to media billings are entirely with the agency and not them. And the worst case scenario, an independent agency goes belly up. All they have to do is find another agency quickly. So the risks to them are relatively small, and it's taken a while for them to come around to understanding that. But that's certainly opened up opportunity from that perspective, which has been prohibitive in the past. People as much as product win pitches, and the excitement I've seen from indie agencies recently compared to the uninspiring and flat presentations from the multinationals mean that indies are really resonating. I've run 2 pitches for $6 million clients recently, and both of those have been won by indies. And the second of those, we went from 6 agencies at Credentials down to 3 agencies for stage 2, and they were all the indies. The multinational agencies all got sidelined at the Credentials stage. So the people, the excitement, and the personalities, and the personalization that comes through indie agencies is really resonating with clients. So how do you capitalize on this? How do indie agencies go out there? Well, it isn't as simple as just picking up the phone, making phone calls, getting appointments, and the business falling in your lap. There needs to be a very considered approach. And the first thing is trying to understand this marketing person. The larger clients will have a CMO, but there'll be someone in charge of marketing, even at the smaller clients, and the situation they're facing and the decisions they need to make. You need the right position and packaging, and positioning and packaging are important because you need to sell yourself as part of a universal solution, rather than being part of, rather than creating complication for them. And I'll go on to talk a little more about that in a moment. Bottom line is, though, none of this is rocket science, and a lot of you are very aware of this. But there's a lot of sort of pitfalls in ways you can unwittingly come unstuck. So the first thing I'm going to go into in a little detail is the CMO. These guys, they're struggling at the moment. The average CMO tenure used to be 4 years. It's now 2 years. And this article appeared in B&T last week, which has probably put the frighteners up CMOs even more. You're dead in 18 months or less, the headline says, for the future of CMOs. So these guys are finding it really difficult. And there's a combination of factors that are making their life more difficult. The first thing is the alignment of external customer communications and their growing roster. And I'm just going to flick up a chart which explains this. And the best way to explain the issues and challenges they face are with the paid, earned, shared, owned sort of diagrams. The CMO needs to organize and coordinate all of the activities across that to optimize the value of their media spend. Now, if you take even a $10 million client, there might be 4 different providers and partners of media and digital services across them, as well as potentially a creative partner as well. Now, the CMOs haven't got the time to try and coordinate all those entities. So those entities are charged with working together seamlessly to help them provide a seamless service. And it's a real challenge for CMOs. So in terms of selling yourself, what you need to understand is how you fit within that paid, earned, shared spectrum, what parts you do, and how you need to fit and work with the other entities or companies or services that are provided that may not be a part of the services that are available for you to pitch for, even if you deliver them. So getting an understanding of all of that is absolutely critical, because this is the core challenge CMOs face, trying to coordinate all of those activities when they're short-staffed, without the time and without the wherewithal to try and coordinate things often as well. So the other thing that has compounded this is across COVID, everyone at the agency side and the client side was understaffed, and it was much harder to try and align all of these activities through COVID. And where processes and structure existed as well, for larger clients, things became far more protracted and complex. when people move from having meetings face to face to team meetings, you move from 3 people deciding things to committees of 10 people on a Teams call deciding things. So all of a sudden, everything became more complicated and slowed down in terms of coordinating activities and getting things seamlessly to market. So that's another challenge they face. And what this means is you need to understand how to work within the way they work with the entities they have. There's a few other things that some CMOs that you'll talk through face as well around corporate identities, company culture, corporate responsibilities. Increasingly now, you have to be very aware of falling foul of any measures with regard to the environment, with climate change, with equality, with diversity, and all of that is kind of this extra pressure that's causing challenges on CMOs, particularly in some categories. So they have all of that to manage, as well as the fundamentals and basics of marketing. They're all increasingly responding and having to perform to business-based targets, and the timeline for delivery of effect and performance is getting faster and faster. So there's that enormous pressure now where they can't get things right, and marketing isn't this big fluffy area that delivers brand identity. It has to deliver hard results now as well. There's market uncertainty. I mean, the economy's been in better shape, and a lot of them where they are sort of part of the larger companies, and this would include any client over $5 million. There's a lot of pressure on their budgets. They're having to justify their marketing budget, and they're having to do as much or more with less money. And that all adds to the challenge they face. The other problem is a lot of these guys sell themselves, guys or girls sell themselves in as being a solution to the companies they're working for. And all of these challenges, are significant, and they're really struggling to identify what's going on and how to address all these challenges. And they're almost reluctant to turn to agency partners to admit their failings and inadequacies in trying to deal with these and coordinate activities. So they're not going to openly necessarily come out and acknowledge to themselves or their team that they need the help that they need. So they're looking for solutions, but they're not necessarily flagging the fact that they're looking for solutions. So I think with regard to you guys, and this is sort of real top line stuff, how being a solution is absolutely critical. And I've been out to see a number of the independent agencies, and the approach I very often see is, here are our services, this is what I do, and I'm fantastic at it, without actually sitting down and thinking how they might fit in the broader paid, earned, shared, owned roster. So I think there's a little bit, there's certainly an analysis that should be done about understanding who else they do, what the company does, and how they can fit. So that you're presenting yourself as part of a universal solution rather than just an entity in a particular silo. And demonstration of how you work with different types of scenario and companies for other clients is part of, it's a way in which you can demonstrate solutions that might be relevant to that client. So I think you need to have a more versatile approach, do a little bit of homework, and try and understand what might or might not work for the client, and demonstrate how you can add value as part of a team and part of the mix. The other thing is trying to get a better understanding of how advertising makes a difference to this client and in this category. So there's some underlying fundamentals of communication that I sometimes think aren't given enough consideration when I see the independent agencies pitch. So look, those are the basic fundamentals. Aware of time, we're just coming up to 20 past. I'm very open to questions. I think it just needs a lot more preparation. Sam, I don't know, are you getting questions come through at all?
I don't think we have in the chat feature. Let me just...
If there are any questions, if you send them through on chat, I'm very happy to expand on some of these points.
Guys, this is a great opportunity to ask Stephen. And sometimes we don't have questions, as I mentioned this morning. So if anyone does, just throw it in there or call it out. If not, I think you have a bit more of the presentation, Stephen, to go through.
Yeah, look, what I've done.
Oh, wait, there's a few here.
Oh, great.
Do you have access to the chat, or shall I read them out for you?
Yep, read them out.
Okay, Anthony, how do we win Stephen over?
TrinityP3 really is embracing independent media agencies. We see it as opening up choice for clients, which is a great thing. And for a lot of years now, there's that sort of 2-3 million up client that has been very poorly serviced by multinationals. And I think this is a market where indies should win far more of this business. There's a sort of range of category up to sort of close to 10 mil that the multinational agencies take for granted. They use that as a training ground for some of their more junior people. You don't get the high quality of thinking. And indies have that natural advantage with the quality of expertise from founders, from senior people who have come from the multinational system, that they can bring in and deliver promises about involvement and high-end thinking that have credibility, that really come through and resonate. And the two pitches I ran recently with which Independence won, that's exactly what won them over. So how do you win me over? I think being able to understand a lot of these challenges look, I've got a product, and that's what I was going to go on to talk about. I have come in and worked with a few indie agencies where I've helped them with their credentials and their positioning, looking at all of the things that I've whizzed through in no time at all today, helping them fine-tune their positioning and fine-tune the way in which they bring that to market. What a lot of agencies, the multinationals do, and a lot of indies do, is they end up talking about themselves, and the credentials sessions are very much agency out as opposed to client benefit in. The language is all we, as opposed to what we can do to help you. Credentials aren't about you, they're about what you can do for the client. And packaging that and positioning that makes so much difference to the takeout. Using and finding a position that resonates, that has credibility. When we go into the sessions when clients assess who they want to take through from credentials through to the next stage of a pitch, all of the credentials blur together in the client's mind. And if you have a really strong position, if you make a very bold statement about yourself, if you have something that really resonates with them, they remember that and they say, those guys, and that's who I want to work with. And the multinationals are failing. A lot of them are failing in having any sort of meaningful positionings or any sort of credibility around delivering it, any ownership of it. And credentials, the independent agencies, very often it's kind of extensions of who you are and what you've done as individuals, as founders of that agency. And you need to find a way to package that in a memorable way and then show how that delivers a point of difference. That's the way in which you don't so much win me over as you win the clients over. We're very happy. Look, I'd love to see more indie agencies, and that part of engagement with the IMAA is so that I can see agencies more extensively than I currently do, because we're very open to talking to all agencies and finding good fits for clients in that smaller end that we look at. I mean, we run $100 million pitches, but there's a lot of $5, $6, $7 million pitches as well. And that's where I see the indies are outperforming the multinationals. They've won the last 2 I've run in that category. And any more questions, Sam?
There are a few as well, guys. We also provide the IMAA database over to Stephen and Wooly as well on a quarterly basis. We'll just maybe update that one for you as well. Next question we have is, how does strategy beat trading in reality? What are the key trading mediums and where do we lose?
I think we've been saying for some time now that in terms of delivering media value, strategy trumps trading every time. It's no longer about piling them high and buying cheaply. It's about finding the audiences that resonate with the target audience and then buying them at a cost-efficient price. Now, finding those audiences is strategy. It's high-end strategy. It's smart implementation planning. And that's where indies can compete very competitively and almost have an advantage with the care and attention and the quality of the people doing that side of the business with the multinationals. The multinationals, their smaller clients, get lazy in that high-end strategy. They get lazy in the implementation planning. They can almost certainly promise a better rate. They talk about, their group deals and all of that. But the delivery of that rate sometimes doesn't meet their we buy better promise. Our position to clients is that all of the large multinational groups can buy well, and so can the large indies as well. That there is no clear trading advantage that any one of the large multinational groups has over the other. It doesn't make sense. The media owners wouldn't give anyone an advantage because all those guys move around and they give it to one group. They'd have to give it to the next group and every group. So they'd just be devaluing their product. When you run pictures and the large multinationals all compete against each other, they all have a chart saying they won this client from this agency and we improve the trading performance by this. They all have a great ubiquity result. And so the clients come out of it and say, well, I've seen 6 agencies. They all won business of each other. They all improved the trading performance. I'm confused. They've all got a great ubiquity result. What's the truth of it? So that's when we say, look, they can all buy well. The difference is in how well and how regularly they buy across their client portfolio. And that comes down to how well and diligently they manage campaigns and optimize campaigns. There are some groups that only buy well for the really big clients and then don't take the time and attention to buy well for the smaller clients. And the better multinationals take care in managing campaigns. But every indie will take care in managing and optimizing campaigns for a $5 million client because they're bigger clients and far more important to you. So, and that's where the value comes. That's, in the trading area. It's in campaign management. It's in campaign optimization. It's in diligence in delivering through on trading. And the smaller clients for the large multinationals, they're the ones that get shortchanged when the agency's busy and the time goes on pitches or on the large clients. They're the clients that get poor trading performance, where you guys can be just as competitive. Hopefully that answers the question.
Next one. What do great indies do that not so great indies do?
I think, look, we are dealing with a number of the indies now, and I want to deal with more of the indies. We tend to deal with the larger ones initially because they're the ones that have approached us and engaged with us. But through the IMAA, I think it's important for us to engage with more of the indies. I think there's an opportunity for us as a business to run more pitches for $3, $4, $5 million clients, and therefore have the need to have a greater understanding of the breadth of indie offering. I mean, I have some ideas about working with Sam. I think you are grouped together in terms of your services, and I think I need a better understanding of the range of options available and the different types of indie offering. so that we can embrace indies more, and I can engage with more of you to get involved in those pitches. So does that answer that question, Sam, do you think?
Yep. A few more. This is a bit of an elephant in the room question. What concerns would some clients have about indies, and how would you tackle them?
The biggest concern they have is there's two groups of people in pitches. There's marketing and procurement. The marketing people, particularly on pitches recently, really are very interested in indies because they've used the large multinationals. They've been a small fish in a large pond. They've been underserviced. They've had overpromise. They feel like they're getting the junior team. They feel like the turnover on their staff is just being, they have to educate new people every time there's turnover on their staff in their business. So they're over the large multinationals and the poor servicing. And as their needs get more complicated, they want a consistent team and a more mature team and a more stable team. So that is where, there's a distinct advantage for indies, and where they are more relevant. And, marketing, I'd say indies have got an advantage. Procurement have all of these misplaced concerns around financial security. But then that's our job as a management consultancy and a pitch consultant to make sure that that's fully understood. So we engage with any procurement or purchasing personnel involved, and we make sure they understand that indies aren't a risk. That all the risk is with the indie if you don't pay your bills because they've already bought the media in their own name. So it's an education process, but that's our job to manage if we're involved in the pitch. If not, I can sit down and I can help you. I think potentially tackle that head on, acknowledge that that might be something, and almost tackle it and preempt it in what you go through. And those are the sorts of things I can work through with you on an individual basis in the workshop for those who are interested. But it's an important one to tackle.
Good. Next, we may have already handled it, but answer this question. But what sort of clients are you seeing request indies only versus a mix of indies and multinationals in their pitch?
They don't specify. They ask us to look at agency options, and we used to say, "Are you interested in looking at indies?" Now we don't even do that because I think there's a sort of negative stigma about that question, which I think is now misplaced. So when we get a brief from a client on their needs, we go back to our agency database, and we have a look, and we come back and we talk through the long list that and we might put up 10 potential agencies that we typically go 6 for credentials, 3 for stage 2. And we will discuss the options that may take the list down from 10 to 6, who will then be invited to present credentials. So what was the question, Sam? So have I answered it? Sorry, I forget the specific question.
Sorry, I think you've answered it. We'll go to the next one. What kind of, that's the mix. Okay. Now, this is a big question. So how does a smaller indie get included on a pitch roster in the first place? So how do you keep across the market? Does PR have a role in this? Because there's a lot out there, and they all probably want to know, how do we get noticed?
Yeah, look, there are a number of things you can do outside of any engagement with pitch consultants. The thing you can do is to actually do something in the industry, get yourself onto committees, speak at events, write articles. If you're an indie, but you've got some experienced personnel on board, the founders, with things to say, get out there and say them, and that will get you noticed. I read all of the trade press, and if there are people out there talking about moving the industry on and championing issues, then that really helps get you on the radar of the pitch consultants and other clients. If you get out there and you're speaking at events, you'll get the opportunity to talk and network with a lot of clients as well. So make the investment of time in doing your own PR, not getting a PR company to do it, but doing your own PR and getting out there and championing change, positive change in your industry. And that's the best thing you can do. And if you do that, we're very open to having conversations with indie agencies, and by all means contact me. Sam, if you give me the database, I'll contact your members after the event. And I can't talk to everyone all of the time, but if you get on my radar, then I can certainly I'll have an understanding of your offering, and we can take it from there. And hopefully there will be opportunities. There are some indies, we won't name any, but who have had success for us recently, and we'd love it to be more.
Amazing. This one's from Taz. When you're a newish agency, say 1 to 5 years old, you don't have too many clients in your book yet, but you've been in the industry for 20 years plus. How do you get around being the new agency, yet you've got more experience than most?
I think that's where, as I said, people as much as product win pitches. So if you have got people who have done things, have a reputation, who have done things elsewhere, in the very early days, I wouldn't be ashamed of saying this is what I've done elsewhere. And I think if it's genuinely been you're not championing something that you've been a part of a team, but if you've been someone who's driven change, done great work, won awards, and been recognized for it, I wouldn't disguise the fact that you've done that through a multinational. I don't think you need to. I think a lot of the rationale for setting up an agency is around frustration of being able to do great work and working within underfunded large multinationals. And so there's a whole load of things you can bring to the party in that conversation as to why you've left, that are positives in terms of what you want to deliver, in terms of value to your clients. Multinational agencies are funding the regional office, the head office, and you guys are funding more modest premises without overheads that aren't directly contributing to local clients. So there's a great story in there for indies being able to deliver value.
Next one. Is there a movement for clients looking to reduce the number of agencies they work with, or engage more niche specialist agencies?
Generally, it's about trying to make everything work across that paid, earned, shared, owned spectrum. And as a principle, you would say use fewer entities. Don't use more entities than you have to. And that's a principle that we talk through. Now, that doesn't mean consolidate it all with one player necessarily. There are networks of agencies that work very well together. And there are internal agencies within a multinational group that don't actually function that well together. There's almost competition between the entities. So as a point of principle, less is better. But if you make the assumption that you go with a large multinational group and all of their entities, it doesn't necessarily deliver a better, more seamless service. So what you need to do if you are presenting yourself as part of that paid, earned, shared, owned spectrum is make sure you have case studies of how you work seamlessly and cooperatively with other entities to fit as part of a holistic solution. Flexibility and working as part of a broader team is absolutely fundamental to positioning yourself as part of an overall solution for that marketing person, rather than this sort of standout thing that I've got to make work. So, and that from the credentials presentations I've seen from a couple of specialist indie agencies, they don't address that at all. It's here we are, we're wonderful, we do this area of digital, we're fantastic, and here's what we've done. And if you don't explain to the CMO how you can fit with all of the other things he does, you leave him to work out how to do that, and you leave them to do anything, and they're not great at that. You know, they don't want additional problems to solve. They'll think about it for 2 seconds, and you know, they've got the attention span of a gnat as well. So yeah, you have to, if you rely on them to try and work things out for themselves, they very quickly get distracted, and you become, no, it's too hard. So that's the key thing. If you are a specialist in an area, show how you work with different mixes of agencies to deliver client solutions, and how you understand that that is absolutely integral to making it work at a client level.
Okay, and a couple of quick questions. And on that, do you see, you know, full service agencies, are they coming back in vogue, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I judged my umbrella full service agency of the year 3 years ago and 2 years ago. I didn't do it last year, but there were very few entries. The umbrella awards get 40 entries now for some of the awards, and there are about 4 or 5, because there are very few agencies that call themselves full service. You've got CHEP, you've got Thinkerbell, and you've got a couple of others, but really, a lot of the large agencies are no longer positioning themselves as full service, because you know, a lot of the time their media offering doesn't have the depth that is required to really deliver a media product that resonates with the bigger guys. But if you're a smaller indie agency, and I know there's 1 or 2 that I've been talking to recently that are looking to provide a full service, there's a better rationale for that being able to work to smaller clients, you know, 3 to 8 mil clients. It's very difficult for that to work and deliver the media product that a $30 million client needs. But a smaller client where you're a challenger brand, probably you've got to make the funds work hard, seamless integration of content and medium delivery mechanisms are integral to resonating with target audiences. There's far more credibility for indie agencies to present themselves as delivering that. I think you need to tread cautiously that way, because sometimes clients have embedded creative agencies or mates who are delivering it for them. So you don't want to go down too hard down the route of saying, this is the way we operate with holistic full service. But there will be opportunities where you demonstrate how creative and media working seamlessly together in a small operation add benefit. So I think stronger case for full service for indies with smaller clients and large multinationals with larger clients.
It's been spoken about in the past. Is there a possibility of super indies? And when I say super indies, maybe 2, 3, or 4 indies who are specialists in a certain area combining together to go after a client? And what are your thoughts on that?
I actually recommended that to an indie I saw a couple of months ago. I said, look, you've got a great product in this area, but there are very few clients who will be running a pitch specifically for these services. And the move is towards holistic agencies that can deliver more holistically across the whole spectrum. So I think you need to understand who you are, look around you amongst other IMA members, and look to see where, you know, you're covering off quite distinct areas and there's minimal overlap in your products, and look to potentially partner with them. If you meet with them, if they're like-minded, I think there is strength in that. I think you need to manage carefully how that, you know, if you're in Sydney, partly in Sydney and partly in Melbourne, that may be difficult to sell. But if you're both operating out of offices in Surrey Hills or somewhere where you can talk about how you work from an integrated point of view, then I think you can package yourselves. Yeah.
I would love to see that one day. And guys, there's plenty of events going on where you can network with your fellow leaders as well in Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane. The final question is, I've heard a few pitches that are centered around what the agency does and who they are, rather than focus on what the client's problem is and what the solution is going to be. What do you think you're looking for when researching a client, and how to engage with them? Any advice?
If you've been invited to a credentials pitch, then you know, some agencies try to predict what a client's issues are, and that can be a little hit or miss. So there's an element of risk in that. It can work to your advantage if you get it right, but I would say the potential downside is greater than the upside. I think they're looking at the potential of what you can deliver. The whole thing with credentials and how you talk about yourself is making it client in. So it's all about what you can do for them, and it's the language you talk. And rather than me out, this is what I do. We're great at this. We're great at that. Here are some awards we've won. These are awards we won for our clients. This is how we help the client deliver great performance. So there needs to be a level of not servitude, but the fact that you are totally focused on making your client's business work. And it's often no more than talking about exactly the same thing, but from a client in perspective rather than the agency out perspective. So those are the things that resonate. I think you need to, rather than trying to predict what a client's problems are, you can predict the sort of challenges they face and go to the work you've done with existing clients and make sure your credentials and the case studies you present are absolutely relevant, and parallel them. And then you can at the end say, look, we envisage this might mirror some of the challenges you face in your category. And that's why we presented it. Rather than saying, here's your problem and we've had a look at it. And so I think that's the way to do it.
Amazing. Look, I think that's it, guys. So firstly, Stephen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your support as well for the of the IMAA and the Indies. It's amazing. We'll circulate this slide around for everyone along the shared group. And then also, Stephen, we'll also get you an updated version of the database so you can navigate your way around around everyone. Just a reminder as well, guys.
If I send to you to send to your members, I've got a one-pager which talks about this 7-hour package, effectively spending a day with you to help take all of those generic learnings and make them work with you and your service offering, your positioning and credentials, and effectively brainstorm with you your current new business approach and other potential or enhanced avenues as well. So I'll send the one-pager to you, Sam. If you could send that on, that would be great.
Yep, we'll put it in the closed LinkedIn group this afternoon, guys, and also include it in the newsletter at the end of the month. Next week we've got Criteo. I hope to see as many of you at the Principal and Partner Night on Thursday night. We need all your support to be there. And then Queensland, we'll be up at Queensland in at the end of the month, but also there is some big news happening on the Queensland front. So we're having some wins with the government there, and it looks like the tender's now been opened up to Indies that we include that pressure. So that's really, really exciting. And then we've also got a ministers meeting for the federal government as well, just including and having that fight there for everyone on with the government. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Stephen, for your support. Everyone have a great week.
Justin. So I'm seeing a few faces there. It's Justin. Hi, guys. Thank you very much for your time today, everyone.